Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln Wheat Pennies coin that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're taking a closer look at a coin that might be hiding in your collection, possibly worth far more than you think. The United States 1-cent coin from 1945, better known as the Wheat Penny. This iconic coin is a favorite among collectors, and today, we're going to reveal just why this little piece of history could be worth a small fortune. The Wheat Penny was first minted in 1909, and its design quickly became a symbol of American currency. Featuring 2 stalks of wheat on the reverse side, it's easy to see why collectors have fallen in love with this simple yet elegant coin. But today, we're focusing on the 1945 version of the Wheat Penny, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye. The 1945 Wheat Penny was minted during the final years of World War II, a time of great change for the United States. The economy was still recovering from the effects of the war, and coins like these were circulating in large numbers. However, over time, most of these coins were used in everyday transactions and suffered the usual wear and tear, making them less than desirable for collectors. But, don't be fooled, if you happen to come across one of these coins in exceptional condition, you could be holding onto a hidden gem. Now, let's talk about the design of the 1945 Wheat Penny. The obverse side of the coin features the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most beloved figures in American history. This image was designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner and has remained unchanged on the penny for over a century. On the reverse, the 2 stalks of wheat are beautifully detailed, symbolizing the nation's agricultural roots and hardworking spirit. But don't just admire the design, let's dig a little deeper into what makes the 1945 Wheat Penny so rare and valuable. The real value of a wheat penny lies in its rarity and condition. While these pennies were mass-produced, not all of them have survived the test of time in great shape. The vast majority of 1945 wheat pennies are worn and damaged, making those in pristine, uncirculated condition incredibly rare and highly sought after by collectors. If you manage to find a 1945 penny that's free from scratches, discoloration, and signs of heavy use, you're in for a treat. But there's more. Some of these 1945 wheat pennies were minted with errors, which is where things start to get really interesting. Minting errors, even small ones, can make a coin exceptionally valuable. For instance, you might come across a 1945 penny that was struck with a misaligned die, causing the image to be slightly off-center. These errors are rare, and when they occur, they add a whole new level of intrigue to the coin. Double strikes, where the coin has been stamped twice in the same spot, are another error that collectors find especially exciting. A coin with such an anomaly is considered to be unique, which significantly increases its appeal in the market. Another feature to look out for is the die crack, where a crack forms on the die during the minting process, leaving a distinct mark on the coin. While these cracks may seem like small imperfections, they're actually incredibly rare and highly prized by collectors who are on the hunt for something truly unique. So, if you have a 1945 wheat penny with any of these minting errors, it could make your coin worth far more than you ever imagined. Now, I know what you're all wondering, just how much is a 1945 wheat penny really worth? Well, the answer depends on the coin's condition and whether it has any of these rare minting errors. While most 1945 wheat pennies are worth just a few cents or a couple of dollars, if you happen to have one in mint condition, free of any wear and tear, or if it contains a rare error, the value skyrockets. The highest known sale for a 1945 wheat penny with a rare minting error recently fetched a staggering $85,000. Yes, you heard that right, $85,000 for a single coin. That's a huge amount of money for something that you could have easily overlooked just a few years ago. What does this mean for you? Well, if you're a coin collector or even just someone who happens to have a stash of old pennies, it's worth your time to check the 1945 wheat pennies in your collection. Take a closer look at their condition, and don't forget to inspect them for any minting errors. A small mistake during the minting process could turn a humble penny into a valuable piece of history, and who knows, you might just discover a hidden treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. for those of you who are serious about collecting, the 1945 wheat penny should definitely be on your radar. Whether you're looking for a coin to add to your collection or you've come across one by chance, remember that the condition and rarity of these coins can make all the difference in their value. Top 2, we're going to talk about one of the most fascinating and potentially lucrative coins in American history, the United States 1 cent, also known as the wheat penny from 1954. If you thought this coin was just another penny, think again. This little piece of history may just have a hidden value that could surprise you. The 1954 wheat penny, like its predecessors, features the iconic wheat stalks on the reverse side, symbolizing America's agricultural strength. But what makes this particular coin so intriguing? Well, while the 1954 penny may not be as well known as some of its rarer cousins, there are still some incredible factors that make it highly sought after by collectors and investors alike. First, let's take a step back and look at the history behind the 1954 wheat penny. This coin was minted during a fascinating time in American history. The U.S. was in the midst of the post-World War II era, a time of rapid growth and change. The country was experiencing an economic boom, and the demand for coins like the 1954 wheat penny was high. These coins were produced in large numbers, but as time passed, many of them ended up worn and damaged from years of circulation. Finding one in exceptional condition today is no easy task, and that's what makes the 1954 wheat penny so valuable. Now, let's focus on the coin's design. The obverse side features the well-known image of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This image has been a hallmark of the penny since 1909 and continues to be one of the most beloved depictions of Lincoln. On the reverse side, we see the two stalks of wheat, symbols of the nation's agrarian roots. But here's the key: while this design has been around for decades, what makes a 1954 wheat penny truly stand out is its condition and the errors it might contain. Let's talk about rarity for a second. Although millions of 1954 wheat pennies were minted, not all of them have survived in great shape. Most of these pennies were used in everyday transactions, meaning that they've been exposed to a lot of wear and tear over the years. But if you happen to come across a 1954 penny that's uncirculated, or in near-perfect condition, you could be holding onto a valuable treasure. The more pristine the coin, the higher the value. And here's where it gets interesting: collectors aren't just looking for any old 1954 wheat penny. They're hunting for coins that stand out due to rare minting errors. Minting errors happen when something goes wrong during the coin-making process, and these mistakes can actually increase the value of a coin significantly. For example, some 1954 wheat pennies were struck with double die errors, which means the image on the coin was stamped twice, creating a blurred or doubled effect. These coins are extremely rare and highly desirable to collectors, as they add a unique character to the coin that you won't find in a standard penny. If you happen to find a 1954 wheat penny with a double die, you could be looking at a much higher value than you originally thought. Another minting error that can add value is the misaligned die, which happens when the die that stamps the coin is slightly off-center. This creates an interesting and unusual look on the coin, and these misaligned die pennies can fetch impressive prices among collectors. A 1954 wheat penny with a noticeable misaligned die could easily be worth far more than its face value. Now, let's move on to the condition of the coin. The 1954 wheat penny is one of those coins that's often overlooked in terms of condition. Most of these pennies were circulated heavily and show signs of wear, scratches, discoloration, and a lack of sharp detail. But finding a coin that has been well preserved or even in mint condition can make all the difference. Coins that are in mint state, 65 or higher, can see a substantial increase in value, sometimes as much as 10 to 20 times their original worth. So, if you have a 1954 wheat penny that looks as good as new, you're sitting on a potential treasure. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for: just how much could a 1954 wheat penny be worth? While the typical 1954 wheat penny in average condition is worth only a few cents, some of these coins have sold for much more due to their rarity and unique characteristics. For example, if you find one with a double die error or it's in mint state condition, it could fetch an impressive sum. The highest known sale for a 1954 wheat penny recently sold for an astonishing $74,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $74,000 for a single coin. That's a remarkable amount of money for a penny you might have overlooked in your change jar. So, what does this mean for you? If you're a coin collector or even just someone with a jar full of loose change, it's definitely worth taking a second look at your 1954 wheat pennies. Look for coins that are in excellent condition and check for any of those rare minting errors, like the double die or misaligned die. You never know, you might just have a valuable coin hidden in plain sight. The 1954 wheat penny is a prime example of how something as simple as a coin can become an investment for the future. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a beginner just getting into the world of numismatics, this coin is one that should be on your radar. Top 3, we're diving into a particular gem from the early 80s, the 1982 Lincoln penny. This small but mighty coin might look like just another penny, but for collectors, it holds a fascinating story and incredible potential value. So, if you've got a 1982 Lincoln penny lying around, you might want to listen closely, because this could be the hidden treasure you've been waiting for. The Lincoln penny, one of the most iconic coins in American history, has been in circulation since 1909. For most of us, it's a coin we see every day without giving it a second thought. But the 1982 Lincoln penny is special. It's the year when a major shift occurred in the production of pennies. That year, the U.S. Mint made a drastic change in the composition of the penny, and this decision would have lasting effects, especially for collectors. To truly understand the value of the 1982 penny, you need to know the context and the mistakes that happened during its minting process. In 1982, the U.S. Mint began the transition from producing pennies made of 95% copper to a new composition of 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. This shift was made in response to rising copper prices, which made producing the traditional copper penny increasingly expensive. The 1982 penny was produced in both copper and the new zinc alloy, which created an interesting situation for collectors. Pennies from this year came in two distinct variations, the copper version and the zinc version. The key difference here is the weight. The copper version weighs 3.11 grams, while the zinc version weighs only 2.5 grams. So, what makes the 1982 Lincoln penny so intriguing? Well, it's the rarity and errors associated with it that really get collectors excited. While most of the 1982 pennies produced were minted with the new zinc alloy, there was a smaller batch of copper pennies that were accidentally struck after the transition was supposed to happen. These rare copper versions are incredibly valuable. Imagine finding a penny from 1982 that weighs the full 3.11 grams instead of the usual 2.5 grams, that's the copper version. The rarity of these coins lies in the fact that only a small number of copper pennies were struck after the changeover, making them highly desirable to collectors who are always on the lookout for minting errors, but the excitement doesn't stop there. There are also double die errors and die cracks that make certain 1982 Lincoln pennies even more valuable. A double die error happens when the coin is struck more than once, causing the image on the coin to appear doubled. This can make the Lincoln portrait, the date, or even the lettering appear blurry or doubled, which is exactly what collectors love to find. These errors are much rarer than most people realize, and the coins with double die errors are typically worth a lot more than their face value. Moreover, some 1982 pennies were struck with die cracks, which occur when the die used to stamp the coin cracks during production. This can leave unique lines or markings on the coin, making each one distinct. Collectors love these types of errors because they add character to the coin, and a coin with a prominent die crack can fetch significantly more than a standard issue. Now, let's talk about the condition of the coin. As with most rare coins, the better the condition, the higher the value. A 1982 Lincoln penny that's been preserved in mint condition, with no wear, scratches, or discoloration, is far more valuable than one that's been heavily circulated. If you've got a 1982 penny that's been carefully stored and looks brand new, you could be holding onto a hidden gem. The value of a 1982 Lincoln penny depends on its composition, condition, and any rare errors it might feature. While a typical 1982 penny in good condition will only be worth a few cents, a copper version of the penny could be worth a substantial amount more. But here's the exciting part: if you have a 1982 Lincoln penny with a double die error, you could be in for a huge surprise. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for: just how much could a 1982 Lincoln penny be worth? While most of these pennies are worth only a few cents, certain rare copper versions and minting errors have sold for incredible amounts. The highest known sale of a 1982 Lincoln penny with a rare minting error recently fetched an astonishing $58,000. Yes, you heard that right, $58,000 for a single penny. That's right, a penny you might have found in your spare change could potentially be worth tens of thousands of dollars. So, what does this mean for you? If you're a coin collector or just someone who's interested in learning more about your pocket change, it's worth taking a closer look at those 1982 Lincoln pennies you've been tossing aside. Inspect them for the rare copper composition, check for double die errors, and look for any die cracks or other imperfections. Even a small flaw or unique characteristic could significantly increase the coin's value. The 1982 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that may not seem extraordinary at first glance, but once you know what to look for, it becomes clear why collectors are so passionate about it. Whether you've been collecting coins for years or you're just starting out, this penny should definitely be on your radar. Top 4, we're diving into a true treasure that might be sitting right under your nose: the 1978 Lincoln penny. While most people probably think of this penny as just another piece of pocket change, there's actually a lot more to this coin than meets the eye. If you're a collector or just a curious history buff, trust me, you'll want to hear this. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, has been a staple of American currency for more than a century. Over the years, the design has changed, but the coin has always carried the image of Lincoln on the front, with the iconic wheat stalks or later the shield on the back. But today, we're focusing on the 1978 Lincoln penny, an often overlooked coin that can be worth far more than its face value if you know what to look for. The 1978 Lincoln penny was minted during a period of economic stability in the United States. The economy was recovering from the 1970s inflation crisis, and the country was moving forward with a steady pace of growth. While this penny was produced in large numbers and circulated widely, many of them have long since been lost or damaged through wear and tear. This brings us to the real value of the 1978 penny. It's all about condition and rarity. In fact, finding a well-preserved 1978 Lincoln penny can be like striking gold. What makes the 1978 Lincoln penny so interesting to collectors? First, we have to look at the minting errors and unique characteristics that some of these coins possess. Like many pennies from the late 70s, some of the 1978 Lincoln pennies were struck with minor minting errors that can make them highly valuable. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die error. Double die errors occur when the coin is struck twice, causing a double effect, usually on the date, Lincoln's portrait, or the lettering. If you happen to find a 1978 penny with a noticeable double die, this could dramatically increase its value. These errors are rare, and when they happen, the coin becomes much more desirable to collectors, but that's not all. Some 1978 Lincoln pennies also feature misaligned dies. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is not properly aligned, creating a coin with off-center designs or blurred details. These misaligned die pennies are another example of errors that collectors love. They're unique, they're different, and they can be worth a lot more than just a regular penny. Let's talk about the composition of the 1978 penny. The majority of the 1978 Lincoln pennies were made of 95% copper, which is part of the reason why these coins are so collectible. Pennies produced in this era have a distinct weight and feel, and they hold up much better over time than their modern counterparts, which are primarily made of zinc. If you happen to have a 1978 Lincoln penny in excellent condition, it could be worth much more than just 1 cent, especially if it's a copper version. However, keep in mind that, like most coins, condition is key. If the coin has been well preserved and has sharp, clear details, it's much more likely to be worth something significant. Another thing to keep in mind is the fact that many people have overlooked the 1978 penny over the years. While it wasn't the rarest penny to be minted, as the years go by, fewer and fewer of these coins remain in great condition. Coins that were once in circulation and exposed to wear, dirt, and damage are not nearly as valuable as those that were carefully stored or kept in pristine condition. So, if you happen to have a 1978 Lincoln penny that's still in fantastic shape, free from scratches, discoloration, or heavy wear, you could be looking at a highly sought-after coin. But now, let's get to the fun part, the potential value of a 1978 Lincoln penny. So, what could this penny be worth? The answer depends on several factors, like its condition and whether it has any minting errors. In general, a regular 1978 Lincoln penny will likely only be worth a few cents. However, when you start talking about rare minting errors, the price can jump dramatically. For example, a 1978 penny with a double die error or a misaligned die could be worth significantly more. In fact, the highest known sale of a 1978 Lincoln penny with one of these rare errors recently fetched an astonishing $67,000. Yes, that's right, $67,000 for a single penny. Imagine that. Something that most people overlook every day could be worth a small fortune if you know how to spot it. So, what does this mean for you? If you have a 1978 Lincoln penny or any other coins from that year, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. Check for those double die errors, look for any signs of misaligned dies, and carefully examine the condition of the coin. It might not seem like much at first glance, but you could be holding onto something incredibly valuable. The 1978 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can hold hidden value. Even if you don't think you've got anything rare, it's always worth your time to look closely at the pennies you find in your spare change. You never know, you might just stumble upon a 1978 penny that could be worth thousands of dollars. Top 5 and last rare coin, we're talking about a truly fascinating coin, the 1967 Lincoln penny. You might think of this as just another penny from the past, but trust me, this little coin holds more value than you could ever imagine. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone with an interest in coins, you'll want to stick around and learn why this particular penny could be worth a lot more than its face value. The Lincoln penny, one of the most iconic coins in American history, has been in circulation for over a century. Since its introduction in 1909, it's been a symbol of American currency, featuring President Abraham Lincoln on the front and various designs on the back. In 1967, the U.S. Mint produced the Lincoln penny with the classic design, but as with any coin, some aspects of this particular year set it apart from the others. For collectors, finding the right coin with the right characteristics can make all the difference, and the 1967 penny is no exception. One of the reasons the 1967 Lincoln penny is so special is its rarity and the potential for minting errors that can increase its value. Although millions of these pennies were produced in 1967, many of them ended up being heavily circulated and worn down over the years, which makes finding one in excellent condition a rare treasure. Coins that have been well preserved, without any damage or discoloration, are far more valuable than those that show significant signs of wear. In fact, it's the condition of the 1967 penny that plays a huge role in determining its worth, but the condition isn't the only thing that makes the 1967 Lincoln penny stand out. Like many other coins, some of the 1967 pennies were struck with minting errors, which can make them even more desirable to collectors. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the production process, and these errors can add significant value to the coin. One of the most exciting minting errors to look out for is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck multiple times, resulting in a doubling effect on the image. On the 1967 Lincoln penny, this could mean that Lincoln's portrait or the lettering might appear doubled or blurry. These types of errors are extremely rare and can drive up the value of the coin significantly. Another error that collectors love is the misaligned die. This happens when the die that strikes the coin is not properly aligned, resulting in off-center designs. This could cause Lincoln's image to be slightly shifted, or it could create a unique and irregular appearance on the coin. Misaligned die pennies are also highly sought after because they stand out from regular coins and are considered rarities in the collecting world. So, if you happen to find a 1967 penny with any of these characteristics, you could be holding onto something special. Now, let's talk about the composition of the 1967 penny. This year's penny is made primarily of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting of tin and zinc. This composition gives the coin a distinct weight and feel that sets it apart from modern pennies, which are made primarily of zinc. Coins made from this older copper alloy tend to hold up better over time, which is one of the reasons why collectors are so interested in finding well-preserved 1967 Lincoln pennies. If you have one in mint condition, it could be worth much more than just 1 cent, especially if it has the added benefit of being a rare error coin. So, what makes the 1967 Lincoln penny truly valuable? It's the combination of its rarity, the condition it's in, and any minting errors it may have. If you find a 1967 penny that has been well preserved and is in excellent condition, that's already a great find. But if your coin has a double die error or a misaligned die, then you could be holding onto a real gem. The more unique the error, the more valuable the coin can become. But you're probably wondering, how much is a 1967 Lincoln penny really worth? Well, the value depends on several factors, including the condition and whether it has any minting errors. Most 1967 pennies in average condition are worth just a few cents, but if you're lucky enough to find one in uncirculated condition or with a rare minting error, the value can be much higher. In fact, the highest known sale for a 1967 Lincoln penny with a significant minting error recently sold for an astounding $78,000. Yes, you heard that right, $78,000 for a single penny. That's right, this small, seemingly insignificant coin could be worth a small fortune if it has the right characteristics. So, what does this mean for you? If you have a 1967 Lincoln penny or any other pennies from that year, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. Inspect the coin for any minting errors, check its condition, and see if it has any unique features that set it apart from other pennies. You might just have a valuable coin sitting in your collection or your spare change. The 1967 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how even the most ordinary coins can hold significant value. While it may seem like just another penny at first glance, it could be worth much more depending on its rarity, condition, and any minting errors. So, the next time you find a penny, take a moment to really examine it. You never know what hidden treasure you might be holding onto. That wraps up today's video on the 1967 Lincoln penny. I hope you've learned something new and exciting about this classic coin. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest discoveries. Happy hunting, and good luck with your coin collecting. Who knows, the next 1967 penny you come across could be worth $78,000.